Welcome to the Dad's Unplugged podcast, where we are just a bunch of dads sitting around shooting the shit and hanging out. This is raw and unedited. I am your co-host, Sean Pace.
And I am the co-host, Nelson Osorio. And Sean, this is going to be exciting. Delano, I just kind of want to go in. I do know who you are because of Clubhouse, and your voice resonates throughout the platform. Have you ever been on the radio? I just wanted to ask right away because you have the voice of a radio host.
You know, I've people have told me that since my music days, singing days, performing days, but never the radio. And you know what, Nelson? What's so funny is that I always wanted to be a radio announcer. Like when I was a kid, I always mimic the radio announcers, and I just thought it was a cool job. Yeah, but no one ever said that to me until Clubhouse, really.
Well, that's definitely surprising, and we're real excited to have you as our first official guest. And for those that don't know it, Delano A. Johnson is also the wonderful artist who designed our logo for the podcast, and we're very grateful for his time, not just on that, but as of today, he's a very busy man, leading a creative world as he builds it out. But Delano, would you please also share with our guests that are listening, kind of a little bit about you and you as a father?
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me on the show. I can't believe I'm the first one, man. It's like just total privilege to be here. Like this is going to be down in the annals of the great, podcast that lived forever. And when they pull is like when they ask the question, what's the first one? It's like I'm gonna be right there with you guys. So it is absolutely an honor. I came from the Bahamas. I grew up in the Bahamas, and I was a kid that wanted to do things beyond where I was. My mother always made me believe that whatever I could imagine or whatever I could dream, like it was possible. The only thing standing between where I was as a kid and where I wanted to be was the passage of growing up. So she would always say, when you grow up, you can do. Right. So if I said, I'm going to be a billionaire, or even didn't know what that was, she would say, when you grow up, you can do that. And so it was just amazing what she did, the Jedi mind tricks she played on me. And she made me believe these things were all achievable. Like listen, when I say that there was nothing between me and the thing that I could imagine that I wanted to be or wanted, like there was nothing in between it other than my mother's word saying, when you grow up, you can have or you can be. So, I left the Bahamas after high school, and man, she made me. So what would happen is when I got in trouble, my mother would make me give an essay, write an essay, or I had to give a speech on like whatever it is I did wrong. So most of the time it was a speech because I just hated sitting and writing, right? So I would just stand up and I would just say, well, the reason why I went outside and when you told me not to is because you didn't actually tell me what time to come back in. So I figured, and I would do all these things, man. I would just find creative ways. And she never punished me for that, but she punished me for the thing before, right? but so she just figured out real creative ways to, I guess, spark my imagination. And I was always called creative. My grandmother, my grandmother played the drums in the church. She's now 102. She stopped playing the drums when she turned 100.
That's incredible.
That's amazing.
I'm telling you, man, it's just amazing. So I come from, they were all entrepreneurs. My mother was an entrepreneur. My father was executive chef of two of the major hotels on the island. And during the summers when we would go to the hotel, everybody knew, who we was as kids. I remember walking around the property and everybody knew who we were. All those Chef Johnson kids, and they would give us stuff. It was it's just a lot of fun. And then my dad lost everything. And then all the fun stopped.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow. He lost everything, never recovered from it. And he's 96 now. He's
Dang,
96.
bro.
Wow,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, he's 96, and so, I went into creative fields, did pretty well. Had to give an essay, and I had to give a speech when I turned down my. It was a scholarship that some of the Rotarians actually put together for me to go to Georgia Tech to study architecture and civil engineering. So I did a year back in the Bahamas, and then I wanted to go to school, but I decided to go into music instead of that. And my mother made me, again, I'm now 18 years old, and I had to give a speech and write an essay as to why I wanted to do that and how I was going to support myself and my family. I'm 18, and I had to tell her
Wow.
I was going to support myself and my family.
Wow.
So
Do
man,
you think that helped, having to sit there and kind of, well, two things. Do you think it helped growing up in an entrepreneurial family, helping you to get to your career?
oh yeah, it's the
Mm,
confidence to stand up, the confidence to be in front of people, the confidence to speak your thoughts, to ideate even on the fly, to correspond, to imagine. Like it was just this boundary that she helped me to cross. And I think
mm,
with any time that I had to do that, I had to gather my thoughts, and then I had to present. And
mm.
ironically, that's what I did, and that's what I'm doing since that time. I mean, that's how I earned a living. Really, I lived on stage, and I live presenting. So most definitely, it
Uh,
helped my passage. Yeah.
so do you think that's what drives you the best, the best to be an excellent dad is what you've done and how you grew up and as a creative, it allows you. Sometimes we're able to look at things a little different than just a black and white. Trying to be a parent.
Yeah. For me, Sean, I think, to be honest with you, the failure of my father had me questioning what fatherhood was, first of all. And I think that big question mark set me on a course to, one, discover how do you sustain that? Like, because he was like, he didn't talk much, and there were some great moments that we had. But I was actually a little nervous about success and fatherhood.
Mm.
And to me, it was the same thing. If I was successful as a father, it meant that I could provide and support. And so
Right.
it was really one and the same. So my desire really came from seeing him struggle, from having 3 homes and then going to a 1-bedroom apartment and having 7 boats, and 3 of them were yachts, and just being the man wherever he went. People loved him. So for me, it was more of, I didn't want that thing to happen to me.
Mm.
And so that passion led me to be like, even when I was in junior high, I would tell my friends, like, I'm gonna get married, I have 3 kids, dog named Spot, a station wagon, a house with a white picket fence, and a 2-car garage. Like, that was my thing right there. Like, I'm gonna
Wow.
have that. I'm gonna do it. Like, it's gonna be. I'm gonna have it. You guys gonna come visit me. So and I achieved that because of the fear of failing.
Mm. Okay.
Delano,
Yeah.
how many kids do you have?
3.
You have 3 kids. Is
Yep.
those principles that you took from your dad's failing, like, are you doing anything intentional to give your kids that mindset, or do you think that's just something that they're going to pick up on their own along the way?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Nelson, because learning happens with saying or hearing, and then it comes with modeling. So we have to hear the truth or an
Mm.
idea, and that's the seed of possibility and imagination. And
Mm,
then we need external stimuli, visual clues to show us how that thing looks in the real world. So I actively, and particularly with my sons, I actively say, well, this is for you, and this is for your grandson. And my goal is to invest in your grandson's first business idea. So I had these conversations with
Wow.
them, from he was a kid. Like, I had this premonition that my son's first child would be a boy. And I had this when I was really small. I was about probably 12 years old, and I wrote his name down. And so when my son, and I knew my first child was going to be a boy, and
Wow.
and when that happened, like I had the premonition, but when it happened, I was like, oh, so I'm not crazy. So then I told him, I said, hey, your first child is a boy, right? And his name is Benjamin. So my oldest son, like he if you ask him today, what's his first son's name, he tell you it's Benjamin. So I kind of lived this thing out with purposefully. One, it's serendipitous at some level, right? Because I'm also still figuring this thing out, you know.
Sure.
But at another level, it's like I want him to know that he's not here alone. You know, both of my sons and my daughter, like, you're not here alone. You come from a string of successes and failures. But watch what I do. I'm gonna take the failures and convert them into something that you can learn, some lesson that you can take away. So I'm definitely, I think you as a father, you have to be totally active and engaged with that process with your kids.
Yeah, I asked because my son's 10. So even when I meet so many people on Clubhouse, when I'm listening on Clubhouse is what can I take from these leaders, from these successful people, from a Delano Johnson who's was raised by entrepreneurs, who had success, who has failure. How do I translate that into a conversation with a 10-year-old? How do I teach him some of these principles that the schools might not teach, right?
Yeah.
You kind of go through school and they teach you some tactics on success, but they're not going to tell you about, again, your story, your dad being successful, failing, the impact that had, and then the impact that has on your fatherhood style. Same thing. Sean, I'm sure, has a ton of stories on failing. I mean, Sean fails a lot. I mean, constantly, but eventually he'll have success. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. Eventually I'll have success. But yeah, I think you're right. And it's what, for me, it was the losing my job because of COVID. So it wasn't anything I did, right? It wasn't my performance or anything I did. And to try and turn it into a learning example for my kids, and not just you're going to sit down and feel sorry for yourself. You know what? This happens. It's just a course of life. And if we can learn from it, even just learn a little bit, then I believe it makes us better people. And that's why we're doing the podcast, and why we're lucky and blessed to have you on, Delano, because I want to learn from you. I want to make myself a better dad. And it's a conversation I've had with my son, and I screw up. I'm not perfect. I'm gonna make mistakes, but I'm trying. I'm loving, and both my kids know if that's all we can become in life, loving, caring, open humans, everything else works out. It does. But if that's at your core, then that's the best. And that's why we wanted to really have you on, is because, I mean, you even wrote a book about it, about some of your struggles and what you went through, and how you've come out the other side and what you've learned. And I won't ever write a book. I'll promise everyone out there that will never happen.
Thank God.
But if we can take something from you, Delano, it's that you had your own experiences, and I believe your kids have learned, and that's being imprinted on them for their kids on how to be a good human. And we're really grateful for you. So would you just mention briefly, a little bit about your book, because it is a great book, and I know that's not what you're on here for, but I want people to know about it so they can learn as well.
Yeah. So the book was really, it was a cry for freedom and action, right? I lost everything. Amazingly, I told you my dad had 3 houses and I had 3 homes. And it's just amazing. We say we don't want to be like our parents, right? But we end up exactly like them in a lot of different ways. One of the books I studied was actually centered around epigenetics, and how we as parents, as children, are predisposed to make the same decisions our parents make when placed in the same scenarios and situations. So that was remarkable, and it really helped me to see that that my son actually could walk the same road as that of my father. And in studying that, I realized that perhaps it wasn't my father, perhaps it was some things that he didn't decode or rewrite or life scripts he didn't reprogram with his father. And when I went back to study my grandfather, it was the same thing. He lost everything he had around the same age. So it was this journey was amazing. I start to feel like, you know what, maybe this is something here for not just me or my family, but maybe this is some lesson that I can convert this experience into something tangible to help walk people through the process of how you get out of this. How do you reprogram your DNA, if you will? You know, how do you reprogram the things that you're predisposed to? And so I did that. I wrote this book. I read over 300 books when I was depressed and suicidal because I'd lost everything, lost my home, my cars, all those things I said I wanted as a kid, I had and more. Right. And then I lost everything. So I was depressed. And I remember sitting in my house and it was dark. The lights were off. I was actually reading via a candle. I'm in a almost an 8,000 square foot house on 1.3 acres, and I'm in there reading, using the bathroom with a candle and buckets of water. Like this is like my neighbors. Listen, my neighbors are celebrities.
Wow. So
it was psychologically, man, it was very difficult to get through. So I wrote the book after reading over 300 books. I extracted about 107 principles. When I realized it was a book, I said, you know what, let me truncate this to about 10 chapters that's digestible. And the book was born. It was called Refuse to Live Talented and Broke. And because I felt like there was a lot of fathers out there, and particularly I had a lot of friends during 2008, the crash of 2008, was experiencing what I experienced, but on, you know, other levels. And I felt at that point, you know, I had a decision to make. I could become a statistic or I could be a Superman. And when I looked at my kids, I was like, nah, I got to be Superman. I just got to be a Superman. I got to be a Superman.
Yep. And that's the interesting place. Like, it's not about the failing, right? It's about kind of picking yourself back up, because that's what the kids are looking at. They're going to see you fall flat on your face, but
you know, my son, so I actually just recently had a family meeting, and I called all my kids in, and I had them around. Actually, it was right here. I had them around here, and I was talking to them about, you guys seen Daddy fall. You've seen that we had everything. You've been to the house in the Bahamas. You took the private plane and the limos. And I said, you saw me lose everything. You saw me cry. And I said, so I'm working to make sure that you don't have to go through this. And then I called them in front of the computer, and I opened my accounts, and I showed them exactly what was in the accounts. You know what was so interesting? Like, they didn't know how much money we had. Well, how much I had. They didn't have. He's not their money yet. but they didn't know. And my oldest son said, I thought you had just a little bit more than that. My youngest son said, yeah. And it was because of the sheer grit and how hard you work. And they wasn't surprised, they wasn't phased, they didn't ask for a bunch of stuff after that. They didn't, like, and I said, this is your foundation. I said, what I lost was your children's foundation. I said, that's my job, is your children's foundation, and your job will be your children's foundation. I said, that's what we call generational wealth. And we had a really good conversation. We talked about, I told them, hey, you know, we have a family therapist, we have family this, we have a family office, we have these things, da. And so they were all very, very graceful. Very graceful. They received it well. And then my son went and worked hard to buy himself a car for $1,500.
Good
and
for
he
him.
sold sneakers. He didn't ask me. He just said, I'm going to buy a car. I said, well, if you save up and work for X amount, I said, I'll double it. But he went ahead and he purchased it, I think, for $2,000.
Good for him.
But he had to have the insurance, and he had to have, I still got to give him the gas for a year. So, but that was it. You want to buy a car, you got to have insurance for a year, and you got to have gas for a year, and you got to have maintenance for at least 6 months. So
see, those are the kind of things, right? As dads, that you might not necessarily have seen growing up, but you know that's impacting your kid. You know, the fact that he went to get a car knowing he had your help financially, but still did it on his own says a lot. You know, that's definitely a lot. His character, strong character.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wouldn't offer my son any money. I'm like, go do it yourself. Go, good luck. No, I'm kidding. You know, I can't.
No, it is,
This is recorded.
Yeah, you have. Oh, yeah. You see, no, but you do. In some ways, you want to make sure that air of entitlement, you know, doesn't land on them. Like this is like, and there's this fine balance between making sure that happens, and particularly when you live in a neighborhood where everybody is affluent, or everybody have stuff, have toys, right? They have a bunch of toys. And it's like, you know, hey, listen, Johnny's dad is a billionaire. We don't got that kind of money. So no, you're not gonna get. I'm not gonna buy you a new Mercedes 500. No, you're not gonna get that, right? You know.
But the interesting part is, even if you could, you still want your kid to learn that principle of hard work and that satisfaction of buying something themselves with their own hard work, you know, money and their own hard work, grit. And that is tough. The more affluent you get, the harder it is sometimes to instill those principles. So is there anything like specific that you've done aside from the car incident? Because that's interesting to me, the fact that he went and did it himself. You said he sold sneakers as well?
Oh yeah. So my younger son, he's been an entrepreneur since he was 5 years old. Like when he was in 7th grade, I got a call from the principal and said, "Hey, your son's got $200 on him, all cash." He's like, "We don't, Mr. Johnson, like, you know, what's going on here?" And so I had to go down, and I'm like, I didn't even know he had the money. And I'm like, David, where'd you get this from? He's like, I flip sneakers. You do what? I buy and sell sneakers. He said, and so he's a sneakerhead. Like, he's a true sneakerhead. Like, he got me some Gucci's, like real rare set of Gucci's with these Chinese dragon on it. And like, he's a sneakerhead. So he knows all the sneakers. And ever since he was a kid, I bought him some Jordan's retros. And man, he was like, he's a sneakerhead. So he had a sneaker detailing, and then he does custom design for sneakers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he went, then he started a t-shirt business, and I introduced him to Damon John, and Damon John gave him a lifetime access to all of his knowledge vault. So,
I mean, if you're just handing out introductions, just gonna throw it out there.
Well,
I wouldn't mind being your son for a couple hours.
I made it possible for him to be introduced to him. I met Damon through my mentor, Dr. George Fraser, George C. Fraser, who was actually on the app. But yeah, it was that, and my daughter. You know, the thing is though, what happens is my oldest son and I had a conversation the other day, and he's like, and this is what I realized. I didn't realize how much of a Superman I was to him. And he said, "Dad," he said, "you know, when I was young, I believed you could do anything." And I just look at him like, I never knew that, because that's what I was trying to achieve. But you don't know when you've actually achieved it until your kids tell you that. And so when he said, because we got divorced, you know, they went through a divorce. The entire family went through a divorce, and that's exactly what happens. The entire family goes through that divorce. Yeah. And so we had one of those conversations, which is a very difficult conversation to have. And he said to me, I had to realize as a young man now, he's 24, that you were human. He said you were human.
Wow.
And he said, I see. He's like, now because he's got a girlfriend, right? He's had his heart broken before. He's got a girlfriend. So our conversations is, yo, Dad, how do you put up with it? Like, how do you do this and stay calm? So I'm like, now you understand.
Welcome to the party.
Yeah, right. He's like, now you can suffer with the rest of us.
Right. Welcome to the life of relationships, and it gets real.
It's real, but it's another level to now. I'm moving from being like dad to like mentor and friend. And so it was just a wonderful thing. Like I heard him on an interview with Sway in the morning. He was on with Sway in the morning, and he said, my dad is my mentor, and he never said that to me.
Wow.
Right, but when he said it, I was like, wow, that's real. I was starting some dad tears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did something right. You did something right.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Yeah, just
I just think I lucked out, man. I think the lottery for good kids, and even though we're divorced, their mom is equally. We had a philosophy of that our kids have a voice, and so whatever reasons they gave for doing what they did, we hear them, but if punishment was applicable, punishment wasn't withheld. But they had a voice, they have a voice, and I think that served us well, and yeah, but other than that, man, it's just a passion not to be like my dad, and always I ask my kids every year to grade me. I say how they do as a dad.
Oh wow,
man.
Wow, you're ballsy.
Yeah, really, seriously.
I got a personal goal. Like, I got a personal goal.
You get the grade and you're like, I'm gonna do something about it. I'd get the grade and I'm like, well, I guess I'm dropping out.
I guess I'm on a performance improvement plan.
No. Hey, no. I guess that means no allowance. Then you go and bribe them for a good report. Hey,
right.
Dad reports coming out next year.
I know. I'm a straight A dad. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Oh man, Sean, we're coming up close to wrapping up. We want to be respectful of obviously Delano's time and the listeners. Is there any must ask questions for Delano?
Yeah, so I got two more. One, you've got the book that'll be out there forever, but what do you really want your legacy as a dad to be? If you can sum it up in a few words, what do you want it to be?
That's very easy. I want my great grandson, when he had his first business idea, to go into an account that will have a video message from me of whatever my kids are responsible for in posterity to keep that alive. But he has a message from me saying that I was thinking about him way before his father was alive.
Wow.
And I would want him to feel that type of I have no legacy unless my great grandsons can think like that. I only have a history. I have a legacy when my great grandsons can say, well, my father started this business, my great grandfather started this business, and I will be hornswoggled if you would let it go, Like,
why do they have an accent?
I'm just saying, it's like because this is how we equate wealth. It is blue money. It is European long extended lines of wealth that grow beyond generation from generation from generation. So I want my great grandson to experience that, and so that's when I have succeeded. I wouldn't even be around to see that, but it will feel good in terms of leaving my legacy plan to my sons and my daughter, to know that they have a set of instructions to carry out that legacy, and hopefully they add to that. They add to that for their great grandsons. So that's when I've achieved, fatherhood and my reason for being.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm sorry. This is the follow-up question to that amazing answer. Is what is your best dad joke?
Oh my God, that's a tough one. I used to do this thing. Well, it was crazy. It's just the walrus. I would put the two Chinese, after we eat Chinese food, I would take the two sticks, put them in my nose, and I would waddle around, and it was hysterical. Like I can't do that now, but it was hysterical.
Typical dad at a restaurant.
Yeah. I would do that, and they would laugh, and I tried once doing it older, and they were like, "Dad, you're embarrassing me." So I
that was
think
the point where you were just like, all right, I need to stop. I need to stop. I need
at
to do
that point
something in
is
my life.
Now it's just grown up stuff. Like we like comedy, we watch Kevin Hart or stuff like Richard Pryor. I had him watch Richard Pryor the other day.
Oh wow.
They're all over 18, and they were like they were like, man, this is real funny stuff here. So
That's a
just a little
different kind of
adult
funny right there.
Yeah. So that's what I would say, man. The walrus.
Yeah. Honestly, if I were to ask you one last question, look, and before I ask everything you've shared, again, I have one son. He's 10 years old. Just being able to hear that you've had success as a dad, your kids are turning out great. It wasn't always a great scenario. You have failed. You were still able to make it. That's inspirational. It's a really good thing to have someone like yourself. I really hope people listen and share this episode, because it's a good thing to have, because it's not always easy. When you're in the worst of times, you need to hear a few other guys that just can spitball some stuff like this in 30 minutes, give so much value. So I definitely appreciate it. And this question, Sean, is for you or Delano, whichever one of you guys wants to answer. Feel free. Would you, if you had an option, would you prefer to fight a duck the size of a horse or 100 horses the size of ducks? A duck the size of a horse or 100 horses the size of ducks?
I would fight a duck the size of a horse.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Instead of 100 mini horses?
Yeah.
Interesting.
A duck the size of a horse. The only problem is the duck that's the size of a horse can fly. not really.
I didn't think about that.
I mean,
not really fly, but they can get up.
Do you want this thing jumping on top of you?
Yeah, it'd be. So yeah, but horses the size of a duck, they're just gonna be running around like little puppies.
100 of them?
Yeah, I mean, if the size of a duck, listen, a kick, it's you said fight, right? So
it still hurt, right?
It'll hurt, but I think I can manage getting away
You're taking your chances?
Yeah, I take my chances with the 100 ducks, the size of 100 horses the size of a duck.
I had to ask. It's one of those things. My kid, he watches TikTok, asks these questions, and I'm just like, what?
Like, what is that?
That's a big duck. Am I? Delano's gonna get off of this, and he's gonna be thinking about this for the rest of the days. I'm like,
I am. Did I give the right answer?
Do I have a weapon? Right? How fast are these little horses? What is happening? That's all I got for you. That's all I got, man.
Well, Delano, we got to say thank you so much for your time today. And if people want to find you, where is the best way for them to locate you on the intranet out there on the social medias? What's the best way?
Just hit me up, DelanoAJohnson.com, and you can find me. I'm Delano A. Johnson everywhere on my social media. All my handles is Delano A. Johnson. Just check me out there. IG, I'm on IG most because of Clubhouse, or I'm on Clubhouse as Delano A. Johnson. Yeah.
Wow.
You have your own website.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're famous in my book.
Yeah. Definitely.
I'm gonna go rethink my life now.
That's the first thing in owning your own intellectual property is to own your own name. Like you should. That's the minimum, is to own your own name.
Well, tip number 500 from Delano today. Yeah. But but we really appreciate it. Thank you again for the logo. Thank you for being our first guest.
This has been wonderful, man.
We're very grateful for you, and look forward to seeing you again on the many ways that you and I interact, and as well as Nelson. And thank you to everyone listening today. We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, this was wonderful, Delano. Yep, you were the perfect first guest for us. This was a fun time.
Thanks, man.
And for Clubhouse purposes, you're on Clubhouse running daily rooms, correct?
Yep. Yeah, we're on Clubhouse, but we're getting ready to release. I founded a club called the House of Creativity, which Sean is definitely a part of that, and he's just so instrumental in helping us to get our stuff together. And so we're launching that a website so that you guys can check it out for all the Android users, and we'll be broadcasting as well as on Facebook and YouTube and live. So yeah, just stay tuned and follow me at Delano A Johnson to stay up
That's
on the
exciting.
news. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's exciting stuff. The Clubhouse plug is perfect. Hopefully people find you there. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. We're not editing any of this, so all the things you misspoke, they're gonna go live.
It's just out there.
Thank you so much, and for everyone watching, follow Delano, follow this podcast, share it with another dad or single parent that needs to see this.
Yes, Dad's Unplugged rock.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, and we'll catch you guys out there soon in the Clubhouse streets and out in the podcast world. Have a great day, and this is Sean Pace.
Nelson Osorio. We're out.